to In the Huddle. I'm your host, JT Thomas, broadcasting live from Saberton Station every Wednesday from 6 to 7. And if you don't catch me on Wednesday, make sure you check me out on Thursday at thedpost.com. Look under the football section. You'll find me there every time. Joining me, former Mountaineer, 1987 to 1991, Alex Shook. Alex and I have been doing this for a while, and we're starting to have a little fun with it. Really excited about the Mountaineer season, and we're looking for you to come out and join us every Wednesday as we chop it up about Mountaineer football. Alex, we had a pretty good one this weekend. We had an opportunity to watch the Mountaineers, do what they talked about defense. We saw a lot of that. So what we're going to do is talk about Georgia Southern and what they brought to the field in terms of watching us on this past Saturday.
I was happy with the defense. I thought we did what the defense was supposed to do against an inferior opponent that was playing with a backup quarterback in front of a hostile Mountaineer crowd the opening game at night. We shut them down. They're a one-dimensional team. They had, close to 200 yards rushing, but really never threatened us at all throughout the game. And I thought anytime you shut out a team like that, the defense acquitted itself well and at least so far lived up to its preseason billing and hype.
Absolutely. You know, this team is just not any team. I mean, this team won their conference last year. And this team was used to putting up big numbers, but the Mountaineers just did an outstanding job of playing solid defense all the way around. I mean, if you think about it, you remember what Coach Gibby said about this team. They practiced and they focused on this team for nearly 2 or 3 months. I mean, he talked about having nightmares about this team because that triple option was, most often time you think about it and don't realize how potent it can be. But I would say that Coach Gibby did a good job of chopping that one up and making sure the team was ready.
Wasn't a lot of gaps, and when there was one-on-one opportunities, we tackled well in the secondary. I think I saw where Coach Fritz for Georgia Southern said he saw 9 separate occasions where we had guys in the open field one-on-one, and we tackled really well. And that speaks to the depth and leadership that we have in the secondary. A lot of experienced guys back there. Our best players are on the back end, KJ Dillon and Carl Joseph. I was also, I think, happy with the way the game started. About the second play of the game, I think it was Nick Kwiatkowski really laid into that backup quarterback they had, and I'm pretty sure he didn't want to run the ball much after that.
And they really set the tone with their approach to defense. I spoke to several people before the game, and we talked about what was going to be the difference makers between this game. I said, listen, no matter what team you played in the past, we have KJ Dillon and we have Carl Joseph running those alleys. And when you got safeties and almost linebacker, when you look at KJ Dillon, you're talking about a guy who almost looks like a linebacker, small linebacker, who does an outstanding job of running the alleys, and that's not safe for a quarterback. As you mentioned, when Nick Kwiatkowski and Jared Barber played very aggressively and attacked the football, that eliminated some of the options for the quarterback. Those guys did an outstanding job.
Yeah, and they're the guys that we expect to be the leaders on this team. They're seniors that played a ton of football for us, so hopefully they can carry on this success throughout some of the tougher opponents that we have coming up.
And they will. Let's talk about offense a little bit, because that was that one question that I thought that our fans, and in fact, I would even say some of the players themselves, specifically Skylar Howard, going into his first game, he came out and I thought he played quite well. Oftentimes, I think people kind of misinterpret when a quarterback is really trying to find his rhythm and get his timing together. But I thought Skylar did an absolutely great job of controlling that offense and really getting the guys moving up and down the field.
I thought he managed the game. He distributed the ball well. He found those young receivers that I think that are going to be exciting for us, and hope Mr. Durante and Gibson can build some consistency going forward. But they had fantastic opening outings, and I was impressed with Skylar. He managed the game. It was 350 yards passing. And I think he's a threat to run the ball, too, and he's going to help our offense be more explosive with that added running ability.
I absolutely agree with that. I mean, when you think about West Virginia in previous year, and I would say in the last 4 or 5 years, people for the most part used to pin their ears back and kind of get after our quarterback. But now, Skylar's become that third option for us. Obviously, we've been very solid when it comes down to having receivers. In the last couple of years, we've sent receivers to the NFL. Now we have a quarterback. Not only can he throw the ball, he can utilize his feet to escape every now and again and be productive on the football field. I mean, he's not the Pat White type of guy, but he, in his own right, he's done an outstanding job of utilizing his feet to get out of tough situations.
He's dangerous enough that you have to account for him because he can gain yardage on the ground. And I think one of the good things that came out is he connected on some deep balls early on, and that's going to help us down the road to prevent those safeties from cheating up too close to try and make us one-dimensional and shut down our running game. So getting those wide receivers loose, and they're going to get loose against a lot of cornerbacks, getting those young wide receivers loose in the secondary, they're going to have to respect that. We're not going to have 9, 10-man fronts to run against, and we'll open up more lanes for Wendell and Russell going forward because of that.
Absolutely. You know, when you think about it, you know, when I reviewed the film, I noticed that we hit 5 different receivers. You got guys like Jordy Thompson that started off the game catching the ball in the middle of the field, which I thought Jordy does a great job of possession of the football. Nikhil Short did a great job of doing catching a few passes. And then whenever you have 2 receivers that go over 100 yards, you're doing something right. You're doing something right, specifically in the Big 12. I'm very, very, very excited about our guys. And the fact that we didn't, and I think we showed a lot. We showed our opponents that we could throw the ball down the field. And what was very surprising, as you mentioned, Russell Shell and Smallwood. Smallwood, in my opinion, became a better runner between last year and this year. I mean, he absolutely seems like he was in a different gear on the field this season, starting off.
Yeah, you know, watching the game live, I didn't think it looked like we were really dominant with the running game. When I went back and watched the film and looked at some of the stats, I think Wendell averaged over 8.5 yards a carry.
Right.
And I think Russell averaged over 5 yards a carry. And we did push them around a little bit, but it seemed like we had to back those safeties off. And with some of the early success with the long ball, I think opened things up for our running game a little bit. I did have some concern that 4th and 1 play where you know, they knew we were going to be running it up the middle, and it looked like the right guard just absolutely got blown up on that play, and we didn't have anywhere to go. So that's a concern that we need to be a little more dominant and be able to run the ball when teams know we're going to run the ball. So, you know, hopefully we're going to develop some consistency with the offensive line, and we're not going to see, I think it was Mr. Bosch. I hate to call him out like that because he got absolutely stuffed back into the line of scrimmage, and that's what blew that play up. We were outnumbered on the front there. We didn't have enough guys to block them, but Bosch was the one that got blown up on that play and caused that thing to fail.
You know, the good thing about that, though, it's good to see that kind of stuff early so we know where and who we need to focus on in terms of when those guys go back to the film room, they will focus in on where they need to get better. And for the most part, we got a young line. I mean, these guys are very young guys. We have a freshman starting on that line. We have a redshirt freshman starting on that line. And you know, as the season goes along, by the time we get to Maryland, those kids will have a better feel on how to block those tough red zone type situations.
I think we're going to have some competition there too. We've got backups that are pushing for playing time. I think Mr. Mateo might get a little more time on that right guard position after seeing that 4th and 1 play.
It is very, very, very exciting to watch the Mountaineers start off so well. I'm excited about what the future holds. As I mentioned earlier, we got a lot of talented receivers. We have a lot of talent on offense. I know that the talk, for the most part, has really been about what we got going on defense. And we'll get into that. We'll absolutely get into that. But I was very inspired to watch some of our offensive plays. Alex, what do you think about the young guy, Durant, catching his first college football touchdown, which was a very impressive touchdown, if I may add?
I think he looks like he belongs. I don't think there's any question about that. Boy, he ran right by guys, and you know the coach has been raving about the speed that he has, that he can just flat out fly. And you know, obviously he showed that to the nation Saturday night, and hopefully he can develop that and be a consistent down the field receiver, route runner, blocker, all of the things that we need our wide receivers to be going forward.
When you got, and think, when you know, fans, when you got a young guy, this guy's a true freshman, just came out of high school last year, and he's out there performing at a high level. That says a lot. Again, I can't, you know, we're not gonna dub him the next Kevin White, but he's the kid that most teams are going to have to account for now, and that's great for us. In fact, some of our veteran guys that like Nikhil Short and Shelton Gibson, that'll give them some opportunities to be seen also. And speaking of Shelton Gibson, he had a great pass and later in the second half. He did a great job of bringing that home and showed that he can run past some guys also.
Yeah, well, Coach Overson has said that Shelton Gibson and Durante are two of the fastest wide receivers, if not the two fastest wide receivers that he's ever coached. And he has a long history, a long resume of having NFL wide receivers, so that says quite a lot. I didn't know if that was true. You know, a lot of times it's just coach speak leading up to these games, but I think they really did show these guys can fly, and they're going to be a concern for defenses throughout the year.
Right, and let me back up because I want to make sure we recognize, you know, when you look at this team, Georgia Southern, they were the champions last year. That went in their conference in the first year and won out. Their defense, I talked about it at the beginning of our first show. Their defense was a solid defense. They run this funky 4-2-5 type of defense, and they seem to have a good mastery of it. However, I thought West Virginia just did a great job of exploiting them in their secondary. And it was very obvious in the second half of the game where you saw our running backs being able to get up and down the field much better. We exploited that group in the second half. Our offense really did a good job of scouting that defense and did well against. What do you think about how our guys scouted that defense up? And what do you think made them play so well against the defense, which is kind of odd in that type of defense, 4-2-5 in the secondary?
Well, I think playing against our 3-3-5 is probably good preparation for playing against that odd type of defense. And we really did just what we were supposed to do against what I consider to be an inferior team. We were supposed to beat that team up, wear them down in the second half, and that's exactly what we did. You know, I'm not ready to say we're a top 5 or top 10 team, but we did what we were supposed to do against an inferior opponent, and hopefully that carries on to success throughout the year.
You know, the thing about success is that winnings that absolutely brings success. Obviously, our guys did a great job of having a great summer. You can just tell our guys was ready to play football, and we really didn't care who was on the other side of the field. Switching to defense, I'm going to go to one guy who I thought just really played above and beyond, and that's Jared Barber. Jared Barber came out to that game and just was in his own world. I mean, the kid just came out and was very enthusiastic about his play, very determined, very deliberate about his attacking the football. He had an outstanding game. What do you think about Jared Barber?
He showed that he's a smart, physical player. He looks like a coach on the field. I think that year off, we talked about a little bit that last time, where he's watching from the sideline. He probably benefited from that different perspective. And I think he's going to be a force for us going forward. I think the best thing to come out about the game about Jared Barber is that shoulder injury. Wasn't anything too serious. He said it just slipped a little bit, and he was going to be fine going forward.
Right, and I'll tell you guys, as a former linebacker, those shoulder injuries, you know, I remember you being able to have a stinger early on. You want those early on so you can play the remainder of the game. You know, I'm sure I was just as worried about it when he got hurt. I was worried about that knee, but I was happy to find out it's nothing but a shoulder issue that Jared will certainly play past. I'm excited for Jared Barber. I'm glad to have him back. And I'm sure guys like Nick Kidakowski and Shaq will do a good job of being productive, helping them be productive this season. I'm excited for that whole group. You know, one component about our defense that everybody's excited about is that secondary. The secondary we have, I think, is one of the top in the Big 12.
They're long, they're experienced. The cornerbacks played a lot of football. The safeties have probably go down to one of the best pair of safeties we've had in Mountaineer history with K.J. Dillon and Carl Joseph, and Darrell Worley's a force on the outside. And it'll be interesting to see them match up against some of the bigger teams. They showed they were good tacklers against this Georgia Southern team because obviously they were without their number one quarterback. They had a backup guy that wasn't too proficient throwing the ball. So we'll see how they match up against some of the bigger teams coming down the stretch. They'll have the opportunity to acquit themselves against pro caliber players.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to take a break right now. As I mentioned last week, we're going to start this new deal where we kind of give out a trivia question in hopes of doing some giveaways. We're going to start off with this giveaway, this T-shirt. But I want to remind you to make sure that you check us out every Wednesday at Saberton Station. If you don't catch me on Wednesday, always go check us out on the dpost.com under football section. So first up, we're going to give away this T-shirt, Suburban Station T-shirt, and I got a trivia question that I know Mountaineer fans will know. This season, this past week, who was voted Auto Nation's National Player of the Game this week? Can someone give me that answer? Auto Nation's National Player of the Week. Carl Joseph. You are absolutely right, sir. You will win this shirt. I want to thank everybody for participating in these events. I mean, every week we're going to be looking to give away something. We want people to come out and enjoy the show. As I mentioned before, this is a great platform for former players to be asked about what do we think about the game. Obviously, we're certainly Mountaineer fans, although we're going to just tell it like it is. You know, as Alex just did, call one of the linemen out. We'll call you out, but it's all in love and hopes that you get better. Let's jump back into defense, because I'm a defensive guy, and I'll tell you, I like our defense. In fact, Alex, I've said this, and I hope I'm not over-exaggerating, but when I look at this secondary, I think of guys like Aaron Beasley, Mike Logan, Van Washington, and Charles Emmanuel. If you remember, all four of those guys are former NFL guys, you know. And I don't want to christen these guys, but I do want to say I think these guys have learned to play together, and that was the difference when those guys played in 1996. Those guys were able to play together. What do you think about this secondary?
Yeah, I think they have the chance to be good like that secondary. I want to see them do it against Maryland. I want to see them do it against Oklahoma, TCU, Texas, all of the big schools, Baylor. They'll have plenty of great passing teams, great offenses in general to test themselves against. I'm not ready to declare them the best secondary in the history of our school just yet. Let's wait until we see what they look like at the end of the year, what our defensive stats look like. But they certainly have the potential. They're talented guys. They're long. They can run. We have some pass rush. Looks like it's going to be a little bit better up front, so they don't have to spend all day back there covering these guys. So let's reserve judgment. We just played a team that run the ball 90% of the time with their backup quarterback until we declare them the best secondary of all time. But they got a chance. They certainly got a chance.
I agree with that, and that's absolutely fair. I just think athletically, and my thought comes from last season. I saw them play against TCU. That same secondary. I mean, those same guys that played last year, did very well against TCU, and obviously we did well enough to beat Baylor last year. So I'm not just going off of air. I think these guys got a few games underneath their belt. I think they're going to be better than they know they can be. The key to them being successful is them paying very close attention to what Coach Gibby is assigning them, and then they have to be able to play together. When those guys start playing together, linebackers start doing what they need to do, defensive line start doing what they need to do, we talk about a solid defense. And I think that's where we're heading with the Mountaineers. But I agree, as you just stated, the Maryland game to me will be our bellwether game, and we'll know a little bit more about our offense then. Let me do this. Let's talk about quickly some of the key things that went on during that game, and kind of identify some of our top performers of the game for offense. Who would you name would be some of the top performers of our game?
Well, it'd have to be Shelton Gibson and Jovan Durante to see those young receivers out there. Shelton's almost like a brand new guy, probably 3 or 4 or 5 catches all of last year. To see them go out there, stretch the field, make big plays early on in the game, completely changed the complexion of the way that defense was going to play us, opened up the running game for us. So I was really happy. I expected Skylar Howard to be adequate, to be able to manage the game. He's been around a little bit. I was happy to see Gibson and Durante, and hopefully they can continue that on throughout the year against some of the bigger teams. Happy to see them get out there, be able to get open, make big plays early on, because we're going to need that out of them to be able to run the ball.
Right. And in addition to those guys, you know, again, I mentioned Jordy Thompson. Jordy Thompson seems to be a possession guy to me. He's been able to find his way into that offense, find his way to get open, and he's becoming productive. I mean, I see him as a guy that's, you know, he's a small guy. They call him Squirt. The guy's a small guy. He finds a way to sit down behind linebackers and finds an opportunity to get open. He's a guy that's going to figure well in that offense. Players of the game, top performers of the game, I would agree. Those two particular players, Devontae and Gibson, both of those guys were over 100 yards. They should be co-offensive players in my mind. Obviously, I will agree that they are top performers. Moving on to defense, and this could be a tough one. Who would you consider as a top defensive performer for their performance this last game?
It's not that tough. Carl Joseph had 3 interceptions, and I don't know if that's a Mountaineer record or not. It's probably right up there. In addition to causing a fumble and almost killing somebody on a kickoff, he's going to be a force for us if he can stay healthy. And you know, he was absolutely fabulous in this game. I think he had more receptions than the entire receiving corps for Georgia Southern did.
Right. You know, there's no, you have to agree with that. Carl Joseph played an outstanding job. I mean, he you know, what I noticed about Carl Joseph is he's starting to play and become a well-rounded athlete. He's a leader. He is being accountable. He's a guy that you can count on. And whenever a linebacker or a cornerback realizes that I have somebody in the secondary that I know I can count on, that gives me an opportunity to do the best job that I could possibly do. And I think that's what he brings to the table. And I think K.J. Dillon compliments him quite well. So I do agree with you that Carl Joseph was probably our best defensive player of the game. Obviously, he's a National Player of the Week. Looking forward to Carl Joseph being a leader on that team and doing quite well for us in the future. Moving on, our special teams player of the game. You know, that's funny that when we get to this special teams segment, we tend to get concerned. But there was nothing bad happened this game. So what do you think about our special team top performer?
I guess we'd have to go to our field goal kicker,
Absolutely.
3 for 3, hit all of his extra points. He's just been a solid guy for us, a clutch player for us all last year. And, you know, hopefully Josh Lambert can continue to be a weapon for us because we're going to need him in some big games.
Absolutely. Josh Lambert accounted for 14 of those 44 points. When you got a field goal kicker that you can rely on like that, that just makes it that much sweeter in terms of we want to walk away with some points, and Josh can do that. Josh is a kid that we're going to count on, and we saw it last year in the Maryland game. He came home and brought us home a game. It's going to be exciting to watch Josh become a well-rounded player and help this football team win some football games. I think we'll see that out of Josh with no problem. So all in all, the Mountaineers did very well on all 3 sides of the ball. Again, you know, we can't over calculate it because it was Georgia Southern. They're coming up this week against Liberty. That's another FSC school. We're going to see how well we perform against them. So let's move on then to our Liberty week. Liberty, they're just coming off a win. They beat Delaware State last week. They are ranked 14th in the nation in FSC. They're a team that we can't take lightly, and I think Coach Hogerson and his staff is preaching that to the guys that we can't take these guys lightly, and we're excited for them to come into town, but the Mountaineers got to be prepared for football. What do you think about Liberty?
Well, I think the Mountaineers got to worry about the Mountaineers first. If we're ready to play, this is an FCS team. They're a division below us. They don't have the number of scholarship players that we do. They don't have the quality or the depth. If the Mountaineers come out ready to play, they'll make a lot of stupid mistakes, a lot of stupid turnovers. You know, to take care of business, we're going to beat Liberty. The concern is that there's a letdown. It's not the opening game of the season. We're playing another knowingly inferior opponent. It's not a night game, all those things that made that first game so exciting for everybody. You know, you hope guys can get up 12, 13 Saturdays a year, but for some reason, sometimes teams come out flat. So, you know, we need to take care of the Mountaineers first. But this Liberty team is a team, I did a little bit of research. They made the playoffs last year. They're coached by Turner Gill, a guy that's had some success at different levels, has been around a little bit. It's a team that's won its division. I think it's called the Big South.
Yes.
Big South Division, 7 out of the last 8 years. They've had about 9 winning seasons in a row. They advanced. They won a game in the FCS playoffs last year. They have some Player of the Year type players in that conference, and they're a top 15 ranked team in that division. So, they're a team that's used to winning football games, and we're going to have to exert our will against them to beat them and play solid football. But, it's a team that on paper, on the field, in the parking lot, wherever they want to play, we should beat this team and beat them handily. I think it's a little more conventional offense that we're going to face. We're not going to have the unique triple threat option out of the passing formations that Georgia Southern presented, nothing exotic like that. So, I think Gibby's probably a little more relaxed in his preparation for this team, but overall, a team we should handle.
I agree. This team, as you just mentioned, they coached by Turner Gill. Turner Gill was the coach at Kansas prior to West Virginia joining the Big 12. So he has some experience with Big 12 football, so you can't take him lightly. You can't take a team like this lightly. In fact, there's a former player, Will Johnson, former tight end, who was originally with the Mountaineers. He transferred in, so it'll be sort of a homecoming for Will. However, he would be on the opposite side of the field. So, Will, don't take it personally. It's going to be real interesting. So when you look at this team, I watched them play Delaware State last week. The team went out and, for the most part, imposed their will on Delaware State. They got some running backs. They got a kid by the name of DJ Abner and Desmond Rice. Both of those guys remind me of former WVU backs who are just sturdy, small, but rugged guys who run the ball up and down the field. As a defensive guy, we tend to like guys who run sideline to sideline. But when you got a runner that's running up and down the field, you got to be ready to play physical football. I agree with you that we should handle these guys, but we cannot take them lightly. With guys, as you just mentioned, the top caliber guys, all conference guys, they got a quarterback, Josh Woodrum, who's a drop back quarterback who sits back in the pocket. And as they played against Delaware State, he threw the ball around very nicely, very control of that game. We're going to have to get to Josh. We can't have Josh sitting in the backfield picking us apart. In fact, the Mountaineers' number one priority has to be to get to the quarterback. What do you think is going to be key to the Mountaineers getting back to Josh Woodrum?
Well, I think stopping the run, first of all, making them one-dimensional, making them have to pass the game. DJ Abner is coming off like a 1,200-yard season last year, and his counterpart, Rice, rushed for about 1,000 yards a couple years ago, didn't play last year, so they have two very capable, competent running backs, and they're a team that runs the ball to set up the pass. The Woodrum, he's the active leading passer in the FCS division. He's thrown for almost 8,000 yards, so he's a quality player, and they have a quality wide receiver as well. Peterson fellow that had about 1,400 yards, 85 receptions last year. But they're a team that runs the ball to set up the pass. So I think number one, you stop the run, make him one-dimensional. Number two, you get to this Woodrum guy. He's a big stand-up, drop-back passing guy. When you get a hand on him, get him to the ground, and don't let them establish any type of running game where we're two-dimensional, and then next thing you know, they're slipping this Peterson guy behind our safeties. I don't think that's going to happen, that's the concern. Stop the run. That's the conventional wisdom. Make them one-dimensional, force them to throw the ball and sack the guy.
I agree with that 100%. As you just mentioned, this guy Peterson. Let's talk about this kid for a minute. This guy, Darren Peterson, is the Kevin White of that football team. They want the ball in the hands of Darren Peterson. We got to be able to cover this guy, which I don't see being a problem, but he is the Kevin White of Liberty's football team. We shut down that run, make him throw the ball to Peterson, and I'm talking about us seeing Carl Joseph become a leader in the interception realm, because I think if we do that, I think Chestnut and Worley lock this guy down. If we take away those weapons, this guy, the quarterback, Josh Woodrum, is not a runner. West Virginia should have a good day. In fact, we should see some other guys playing Mountaineer football. So let me break quickly, and I want to share with you, as I mentioned earlier, we broadcast every Wednesday from 6 to 7 at Saberton Station. Make sure you check me out. If you don't see me here, you can always catch me on Thursday by going to www.thedpost.com. Look under the football section. You'll find me. Let me ask you a question. Question of the day. Can someone tell me who scored the first touchdown in the WVU versus Georgia Southern game? Who scored the first touchdown? And for this, we'll get you one of these nice little deals here, and you can use this to cuddle your libations, I guess.
Beverage.
Your beverages. All right. So who can tell me who was the first person to score a touchdown this past game? Say again. Score. Wasn't Shelton. This kid was one of the leading. Wasn't Shell. Was not Shell. Someone said it. I heard it. Javon Devon. Who said that? There we go. All right, we got a wizard. Javon Durant was the first receiver, scored his first touchdown as a true freshman, and he scored the first touchdown. Thank you for answering that question. We'll make sure you get one of these before you leave. Again, we are excited to be broadcasting live from Saberton Station. Make sure you check us out every Wednesday from 6 to 7. As we continue, we're going to keep talking about Liberty because that's the next opponent on the schedule. We should have a good defensive day. What do you think in terms of offense? What do we got to do to get in the end zone against a team like Liberty?
Protect the quarterback, play sound. This team, I believe, led that conference in sacks last year, so they like to get after the quarterback. They've got a defensive lineman. I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, but it's Chima Uzuaki or something like that. He's 1 or 2 sacks away from becoming the all-time sack leader in that conference. And again, they led the conference in sacks last year. So we need to protect Skylar. They like to get after the quarterback. I think be sound, run the ball up front, mix it up, get the guys over top a few times, loosen up the running lanes, protect the ball. Skylar needs to manage the game, no dumb turnovers, no dumb penalties. We should be able to handle this team up front.
I agree, and I agree with you 100% when you say no penalties. I mean, a team like this in a game like this, our guys have to keep their head and not get distracted by guys who are doing extracurricular things. Make sure that we keep our heads and stay focused during this game. I'd like to see us manage the game well. The big knock that I've been hearing recently that I want to kind of clear up. I've been hearing a lot of chatter about Skylar Howard in terms of his timing in regard to overthrowing receivers. As a former quarterback, and I was a former quarterback in high school, I want to say to you, look, that's just timing. These guys are freshmen. With a little time, those guys will be doing quite well. I would rather see a quarterback overthrow a receiver than underthrow a receiver. In fact, we saw what happens when a quarterback underthrows a receiver or throws the ball behind the receiver. You get a guy like Carl Joseph who intercepts the ball 3 times in a game. So, Skylar should use this game as another opportunity for him to gain a little timing with his receivers. I think he'll do quite well. In fact, I would like to see the ball ran a lot more. We need to polish up our running game and really get in those alleys and get, against Alabama, the first person who scored a touchdown, who threatened to score a touchdown, was Russell Shell. We got to get Russell Shell back in the habit of scoring touchdowns.
I think we need to establish the run, exert our will against this team because they focus on big plays. I think they had 29 or 30 sacks last year to lead that conference. I believe they had 5 sacks in this Delaware State game. Obviously not the same level of competition, but we don't want them to be able to create big plays. They were the top 3 or 4 or 5 team in their division last year in creating turnovers. So those are the kind of things that can turn a game, can allow an FCS, a lower level opponent, to feel like they belong. Those mistakes can create those situations where a team like Liberty thinks they can hang around with us. So, we need to be sound, establish the running game, no sacks, no interceptions, no fumbles, and pound this team.
Absolutely. Those teams like this, you go back a couple years and you talk about Appalachian State versus the Wolverines, Michigan. Every team that comes in and play a FBS team, they're looking to be the next Appalachian State. So our guys have to be very, very cautious of that and make sure we come out and play Mountaineer football. Again, I have no doubt that we will, and I want to see our guys come out and be very dominant. One thing I want to point out also in regard to running. I have been very surprised to see Wendell Smallwood. To me, he seems like he's running the ball up and down the field much better than he did last year. I thought he tried to use his speed to get outside, but he's been attacking the field north and south. I'm excited to see what he does this season. In fact, I'm excited to see what he's going to do against Liberty.
He's made a great deal of improvement from last year to this year, it looked like, based on the results of the first game. He's been an improved player over the course of his career. Coach Holgerson has talked about what a versatile player he is. He's a weapon as a receiver out of the backfield, and he's turning into a dominant running back. I don't know, everybody kind of thought Russell Shell was going to be the guy to get the bulk of the carries, but at least on Saturday it seemed that Wendell had the hot hand, and I wouldn't be surprised he's running with a little more authority if he doesn't become the guy running the ball in our offense moving forward.
And that's what's interesting about confidence. Not only does our defense have confidence, because that's what it is. A lot of people may interpret it as cockiness. It's not cockiness. It's confidence. When the kid plays a position for so long and they start to know that position and they start trusting the guys around them, these kids start developing confidence, all right? And that's what Wendell's starting to get, in my opinion. I feel like he's really becoming a confident runner, and he's going to be able to add some value to our football team. Russell Shell, I think he's coming along quite well. Again, I'd like to see him hold a little harder. He's too big of a guy to be dancing every now and again. I like to see Russell Shell up and down the field. In fact, last year, I think he scored in the red zone maybe 80% of the time until he got hurt. When he got hurt, I think that hampered him a little bit. But for the most part, Russell Shell should be carrying the ball and being very aggressive in terms of looking to cause damage as a runner. Red zone. I think, last year we had a red zone guy in Kevin White. How are we going to do this year in terms of figuring out who we're going to get to the ball in the red zone? Are we going to be a passing team, or are we going to try to run the ball down someone's throat in the red zone?
I think we have to do both. If we're going to be successful against the big teams, we're going to have to be able to exert our will, run the ball when teams know we're going to run the ball. And that's going to require some development. We got a couple new guys. We're going to have a new right guard. We got a new left tackle. They're going to have to gel. But hopefully, and I think there's some competition that's going to help as well, hopefully these guys are going to gel to become a force where we can push people around a little bit, even when teams know we're going to run the ball. But in order to be a competent red zone offense, you have to be able to do both. You have to be able to run the ball and throw the ball. And hopefully we'll develop a guy. We don't have a jump ball guy on the team like Kevin White from last year, but hopefully we'll develop a receiver like that's dangerous for the jump ball and be able to complement that power running game inside the 20-yard line.
One thing that I'm hoping that we can do, and again, this is not a spread era. I'm going back to my era. I'm probably dating myself a little bit. I like to see the old boot and waggle because, Skyler's not a very tall guy, but if he can boot out and you got some tight ends crossing or something like that, you're talking about some different options. You got some run options. You got some pass options. Again, I'm not hired to be a coordinator, but I think something like that would work for a guy like Skyler. Not very tall. When you're in that red zone like that, you're going to get people that are pinning the ear back coming to get you. I think if we do something with boot and waggle, if we do something with a fullback tight end guy coming out of the backfield, we may have more options during this season.
Yeah, he's not a tall guy. We want to get him outside of the pocket where he's a run threat option, make somebody commit. Either they're going to play the pass or they're going to come up and try and tackle Skyler. So, he can be a threat on that, and I agree. He would be a good boot and waggle quarterback so he can get out there and have a little bit better viewing lanes to throw the ball.
See, that's the old quarterback that's coming at him. I'm talking about plays now where we can get the quarterback out in space and make some plays. In fact, I really like Skyler Harris because I think he's a quarterback's quarterback. He's a guy that's looking to be very productive. He's a guy that wants to be in charge. He's a guy that will put the team on his back. And I saw in last game, he would go for those extra yards. One time he took a hit that I wish he would have slid, but he wants to show the team that, hey, I'm a tough guy, that I'm going to battle for every inch. And when the team starts seeing a guy like that perform, they get right behind him. I just think you need to be a little careful every now and again. When we get the Big 12 play, you better be a lot careful.
He showed it now. He don't have to show it anymore. Right. Next time he can take the slide. But I think he's going to gain more confidence as the year goes on. He's played a couple games last year. He's been around a little bit, but he's going to become more and more comfortable in that leadership position, in that offense. out on Mountaineer Field playing against the Big 12 opponents. So it'll be exciting to see how he develops going forward. And I was happy to see Crest get in and score a touchdown as well in the game.
It's gonna be nice if we can get William Crest in every couple plays to watch him develop. I mean, I think we saw the scenario happen last year where Skyler was ready to go. We always got to keep a guy ready to go, and hopefully William will get his opportunities. But again, Skyler's doing a great job right now. Our Mountaineer fans, we need to stick behind this guy and help him build his confidence up. And I think with that, with building his confidence, we help this kid become a winner for our program. In fact, I know he's a winner because he's come a long way to get where he is. This kid is a determined guy who's willing to go out there and fight for his team. Very excited about our Mountaineers this upcoming season. So I got a few questions. That I jotted down that I'd like to get some answers to. How do we beat the 4-3 defense that Liberty is going to run? Again, 4-3 defense, you got 4 front linemen with 3 solid linebackers, and you have a 4-deep backfield. How do we beat that 4-3 with the spread offense?
Well, I think we got to be able to establish the run against them. It all goes back to that. If they can't stop the running game, they're not able to pin their ears back with that Chimi Uzoaki, who's their all-time sack leader. So establish the running game, bully the team, pass when they expect us to run, and we shouldn't have any problems with this team.
Last year, one thing I think that we weren't high in terms of deliverables is turnovers. Again, we're starting off great now, but it's going to be very vital, very, very important for us to focus on turnovers because, we saw throughout the season, the team that wins the turnover battles tend to do a better job in terms of coming home with a victory. That's one thing that I got jotted down that I wanted to just talk about is our ability to turn over, get teams to turn the football over. How important do you think that will be for the Mountaineers this season?
Well, it makes the difference probably between 3 or 4 games. Between special teams, miscues, and turnovers, it's definitely cost us a couple games last year. But this Liberty team, they specialize that, and they were one of the tops in their FCS division, number 3, I think, and turning other teams over. So it's going to be important for us, not only in this game, but throughout the year to win the turnover battle. It was amazing. We had a winning record with how bad the turnover margin was last year. We were one of the worst in the nation, I think.
Right. That's one of the things that, as I studied up for this season, I knew that it's very, very important, vital for us to start winning some of these turnover battles each and every game. It's just that vital. I mean, especially, people are going to be coming after. We got a new quarterback. The smart teams, and all of them are smart teams, are going to be coming after our guy and trying to cause him some trouble. To help him out, we're going to have to cause some turnover, and that means making interceptions and scripting balls. I hate to see teams that tend to want to try to strip the ball in the fourth quarter. I remember when I played, we talked about scripting the ball in the first quarter. We want the ball every single time, and I think our Mountaineers, if once we start getting on that, getting that mindset, as I said last season, Coach Nealon used to talk about special teams being for special guys. Well, a part of that, those special guys were also guys, every guy willing to go out there and try to cause a turnover. So for the Mountaineers in 2012-15 season, I'd like for us to focus on becoming turnover experts. Looking forward to Mountaineers being better at turnovers. Let me go into a break really quick. Again, I want to remind you that we're here every Wednesday from 6 to 7 at Saberton Station. If you don't catch me here, you can catch me online at thedpost.com. Look on the football section. I'm going to go into a question. I have another question for one of our guests, and I'm going to give away something. I'm going to give away 2 things this time. I got a little ball, and I got another one of these cozy little things that you can hold a beverage with. Question, and true Mountaineer fan would know this without a doubt. Who is the winningest coach in West Virginia football history? Bam, my man right here got it. Don Nealon is the winningest coach in West Virginia history. That's a good job, good job. I tell you, a true Mountaineer fan would know that. And we might need to recruit this guy. He just caught this pass. Good job, good job. Again, guys, we're excited to be here. We're down here at Saberton Station. Again, every Wednesday from 6 to 7. Make sure you come check it out. And before we got started, I mean, last week you talked about the food's good.
Food's good.
The good libations are down here.
Beer's cold.
Beer's cold, you know. It's always nice to be in the place that we're talking football, we're having good food, we're having a good time. Few Mountaineers are in the space. So, guys, come on out and let's talk a little football. Again, let's get back to Mountaineer football. Because we can do this all day. I mean, I kind of enjoy this. So we're going to wait till somebody to stop us, but we're going to keep talking about Mountaineer football. Liberty, I mean, they come in here. You know, I want to talk about this because I thought this was very interesting. The atmosphere for this first game has been, in fact, not just the first game this season. I'm on the message boards, I'm on Facebook, I'm on all these different places. And just the chatter that you're getting from fans right now about this season is just, it's unlike something I haven't seen in a long time. Where's that coming from?
Well, I think people were excited, obviously. We had a little bit of improvement last year after a dreadful season in, was it 2013? So people were expecting big things out of the Mountaineers. And I think, you know, there's some reason to have some faith in this defense. We've got a ton of starters and experience back on the defense, which has been really our Achilles heel over the last 2-3 years, particularly since entering the Big 12 conference. So, you know, I think there's reason to be excited, and, you know, that's it. And we went out and showed it, did what we were supposed to do, took care of that team in the first game, and, you know, it looks like we're going to be hopefully 2-0, maybe 3-0 going into a big game at Oklahoma, not to get too far ahead of ourselves. So, you know, I think we have reason to be excited.
You know, and you know, oftentimes, in fact, as I mentioned, I'm on these message boards, I'm on Facebook, and I talk about the fans, and in fact, how it was so important, the love that I felt coming from Florida, being able to play for the Mountaineers, and being able to embrace the fans. This atmosphere in this state, and this program, is the best that I've seen it in a long time in terms of the fans' willingness to come out and cheer on the Mountaineers. I just felt like we're in this zone right now in terms of almost euphoria in terms of the fans' willingness and readiness to support the Mountaineers for the 2015 season.
Well, hopefully they can do as well as we did in the Georgia Southern game at Liberty. Obviously having that big home field advantage, intimidating these other teams is to our benefit, and, you know, hopefully that can continue on. This is first time Skylar Howard throws an interception and we have a 3-and-out. We'll see how the faithful holds true on us.
I think they'll be fine. You know, I think, and I want to stick on this fan thing for a minute because I think one thing that really gets them excited is the new man walk. I'm really excited about the man walk where our players walk through our blue lot area heading to the stadium. Where the fans get an opportunity to see them, touch them, and the players themselves, they get a chance to embrace everything that's around them. It's just a great feeling, and it happens at the right time. In fact, the players seem to just embrace it. The fans embrace it. The Mountaineers are just on a high right now, heading into the season. We just got to continue to maintain, come out every Saturday, and be prepared to play Mountaineer football. As I said last year, the one thing about our Mountaineers fans, wins and losses come, but we have to see a good fight. It got to be a good fight, you know. We don't want to see us just give up a game. And when we go to play OSU in a couple weeks, we want to continually see our Mountaineers fight. Again, and as you say, I don't want to put myself the horse ahead of the cart, but I'm excited about Mountaineer football, so you should be also, because the team is excited about playing for you each and every week. Again, we're getting ready to wrap up here in a little bit. I got 10 or 15 more minutes, and we'll keep talking about Mountaineer football. Alex, if you could sum it up in a statement, what do you think about this season? Dana Holgerson, it was fourth or fifth year. What do you think about where he is in terms of the program, recruiting, his class? This is truly his class. What do you think about that? Where we are with that?
Well, it looks like the recruiting is doing well. We have depth for the first time in a couple, 2 or 3 years, and I think that's one of the things that maybe, you know, the average eye didn't really realize how thin we are when Holgerson came into the program. And, you know, I don't want to make those kinds of excuses for him. It's time for him really to put up or shut up. He's had 4 years in the program. I don't want to become a revolving door team, but I think he needs to make that next step. We can't have another 7-6 season here. We need to make that next step, and we're competing at the top of the conference. We're not going to win the Big 12 conference every year. Everybody that knows a little bit about football knows that it's a different ball game, but we need to compete at the top of the conference. I think historically as a program, that's where we should be, that we're good enough to be in that upper half of the Big 12 conference, just like we were good enough to be in the upper half of the old Big East and compete in it almost every year. I believe it was equal, as good as the Big 12 conference is, the old Big East, and our old independent schedule. So, we expect winners, and we expect to win 8, 9 games, and every once in a while be able to have those special kinds of seasons, and he's going to have to make that progression this year. He's certainly on my hot seat.
I agree. Hey, it is, I kind of know this and I feel it again. The Mountaineers are all about winning. They want to see progression every year. And I think Dana's getting there. I think that he realized how important it is. We're starting to see his players, specifically on defense, all those guys who are guys that they recruited, his coaches recruited. Obviously, we don't have a quarterback yet in terms of that come up through the system. We'd really like to see that happen. We'd like to see the coach's quarterback come up through the system, a guy that the coaches have groomed over time, really run his program. And then, in my opinion, that's when you kind of really give an assessment on where that coach is, because they have to really get the guys prepared. But I agree with you that this state is about winning. We're going to expect for Dana and his coaching staff to be productive year in and year out and keep our Mountaineers moving in the right directions. Our tickets go up, so I expect the expectations go up.
They're spending $50 million on stadium renovations. We have a athletic budget of $77 million, something crazy like that. I mean, we're not at the top of the top, but we're running with the big dogs, and you have to win. You have to produce. These guys are getting paid a couple, $2 or $3 million. They're football coaches, so that means you got to win.
Absolutely. The good thing about this is, though, our university and our program itself, as I mentioned earlier, we've sent in the last 3 years 3 waves of receivers to the NFL. We sent first-round draft picks. In fact, we in the last 10 years maybe, we've been very productive in terms of sending guys to the NFL. And that's what kids like to hear. They like to hear they're coming to a program that sends guys to the NFL. And our program is starting to become a destination because of guys like Kevin White, because of guys like Stedman Bale and Austin, and Bruce Irving and J.T. Thomas. And, when you got a program like that, it is, in my opinion, it's heading in the right direction. We just got to keep the cart on the rail and keep it moving in the right direction, because us West Virginia fans, we can get a little fickle when we start to see things kind of deteriorate. So really excited about it, and I'm happy about it, and I'm looking forward to us having a successful year. Alex, closing words. I need a prediction.
I think we're going to beat this team 38-45 to 10. They might score a couple times on us, but we're going to dominate this game.
38-45. I think the Mountaineers don't let them get past 14. If they get that, I think it'll be a high-scoring game for us. We'll score over 40 points, and we don't keep them around long. I think we're just there. I think because they're not a team that will cause a problem in terms of trick plays or funky formations. I think it'll be a team that we're kind of used to. We'll be excited about it. Well, listen, we're going to close it up with that. Guys, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I want to thank my co-host, Alex Shook, for once again being part of the program. And I want to remind you yet again to come out every Wednesday from 6 to 7 at Saberton Station. And if you don't catch me then, make sure you check me out on thedpost.com. Until next time, huddle up.